Well, this morning I want to start by talking about a new year and what is before us, and I've entitled this, Change Your Future Day by Day. I was thinking about what are the three most important days of our life, and the first day that I thought about has to be the day that we were born. The second most important day of our life is the day that we realized why we were born. Most of the time that happens when we receive Christ, because the moment we receive Christ into our life, then there's something that opens up and we see something in our life that we've never seen before. We see into the supernatural, and for the first time in our lives, we realize that life is not just about me any longer, but it's about a bigger picture. It's about a bigger plan, and that God has created me and designed me for a kingdom plan, and that I become a part of what God wants to accomplish in this world. And then the third day that I thought about was today. Today, right where we live, this very moment is the most important day of our lives. And the reason why is because we have no power over yesterday, and we have no power over tomorrow, but we have power over right where we live this very moment. Today we start a brand new year, and as I mentioned, it just seems refreshing and it's exciting, and that we are starting all over again. And this year, as we enter into a brand new year, what is it that you want to be? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve in 2012? And if you really want this year to be different than any other year, then you have to realize this. You have to realize the power in each individual day. Have you ever heard someone say, "This is just not my day"? Have you ever heard someone talk about, "This is just not my day. Everything is going wrong. Everything's caving in. It's just not my day"? Realistically, it is your day. Because every day that you're living and breathing, every day of your life, it is a gift of God. And what God has given to you is potential and an opportunity to do something great for the kingdom of God. I want to start this morning by turning to Psalm chapter 20 and verse 12. And David writes these very simple words when he says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." It's a very interesting concept when David said we need to learn to number our days. Really what he meant by that phrase is that he meant to calculate a plan for our own lives, to number them out and to calculate what you want to achieve in your life. In other words, David was saying that we need to be very careful, not just to let day after day pass by and year after year pass by, but slow it down enough to make sure that every single day of your life counts. That every day that you live, that you are living it at the highest level that you possibly can. You see, as we enter into a new year, a lot of people will set New Year's resolutions, and they usually don't go anywhere. Many times we have these big goals and these big ideas, and we never reach them. I want to encourage you today, what you need to do and what I need to do is set little goals, just little goals, and then reach that goal and reach that goal and reach that goal. And what you'll find that throughout the entire year, when it's all said and done, that you will accomplish great things, big things in your life. This morning, let me start by asking you, how many days do you have left on earth? How many more days do you have to live? Well, let me tell you how many days I have. I have 12,775 days to live. Now, you may say, how do you know that? Well, it's very easy. I went onto the internet this week, and I went to this website that talks about the death clock. And I typed in all of my information into the death clock, and it came up on the screen and told me the day that I was going to die. Now, I know it's bogus, and I know it's silly, and it's ridiculous, but when I saw the date come up, it really kind of took me back for a moment to see that I'm going to die on a Monday, and I'm going to die on July the 15th, and then it gave the date and how many days I have left, and it really is a sobering thought to think that that's all I have left in my life, is that amount of days. How long do you have on this earth? The Bible says, being very, very careful to understand that you cannot count on tomorrow because tomorrow may never come. The reason why that it's stated like that is that what Christ wanted in our life is for us to focus on one thing, not on the past and not on the future, but to focus on right now. It's in Psalm 118 and verse 24, and it says, "The Lord has done it this very day. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." There's another verse, or another translation of that verse says it this way. This is the day the Lord hath made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Now, I want you to notice that in this verse, it does not talk about yesterday, and it doesn't talk about tomorrow, but it makes us look at the power of the day that we're living in, the power of right now. There are two things that I want to share with you that I really believe are going to be a major help in how to have the best year of your life. Just 2 points. So let me share those with you. Number one, the first thing is that we must change our attitudes toward today. Change your attitude towards today. You know, when we recount all the days of our life, you look back and you think about how that we've lived our life and what we've experienced. You may be very surprised that what comes to mind are all the major events of your life. Very quickly, when you think back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, the things that come to your mind are the big days, such as graduations and weddings, vacations, and award ceremonies. But there seems to be so many days, hundreds and hundreds of days that we have no remembrance of at all. Hundreds of days that we cannot even think of one single event that took place. And those days seem so insignificant and non-important, but it's in these seemingly insignificant days is where the foundation of success is being built in your life that will lead you to the major days. In Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 5, it says, the sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. Solomon wrote these words, and as he looked at the sun, he found a very powerful truth. That the sun will rise and the sun will set, and it will do it over and over and over again. And as he thought about the sun, he thought about how so many people, that this is the sum total of their lives. That they will rise and then they will set, and it's day after day, another day at work. It's just another day at school. It's just another day that is routine in my life, overlooking the value of how important every single day is. In Zechariah chapter 4 and verse 10, it says, for who has despised the day of small things? And a day is no small thing, but it's a gift that God has given to you. You see, you may have a day where you decide that you're not going to do anything but lay around the house. It's on a day that you decide that you're not going to clean the house, and you're not going to clean out the garage, and you're not going to do yard work. I mean, it's just another day. It's an insignificant day, but you've been working hard, and you're going to do something you haven't done in a long, long time, and you flop down on the couch, and you put your arm around your son or your daughter, and you turn on a movie, and you eat popcorn together, and you just do nothing but spend time sitting there on the couch with each other. And someone could say, wow, what a wasted day. But who knows? That might be the day that your child will remember for the rest of their lives. And even in the most seemingly insignificant days, if you are aware of your surroundings, and you're aware of your calling, you are aware of those that you love the most in the world, if you are aware of those things, then that insignificant day becomes a powerful day because you are building towards something magnificent. You see, the opposite is also true. Let me use this as an illustration. Bill Clinton, when he was voted in as president, and his approval ratings were extremely high. And when you think about being voted in as the president of the United States, you have just taken the position of the most powerful individual on the earth. As you have worked all of your life, had this vision, this dream, this passion of climbing the ladder and all of the work and all of the education and working long days and long nights, and finally you reach that office. It's the pinnacle of your dream. It's the pinnacle of anyone in the world, and you finally reach that place, and now history is in your hands. Because what you will do for the next 4 years or the next 8 years in that office will be written in history forever. Again, his approval ratings were extremely high. And yet today it tells us that 83% of the population remember him for only one thing. They do not remember him for all of the political work that he did. They cannot remember one thing that Bill Clinton did, but they remember him by Monica Lewinsky. And the reason why is because of his approach to seemingly minor days. Because there was a minor day. there was an insignificant day. One day in the Oval Office when not much was going on, when he had no meetings, no pressing issues on the schedule. It was what he might label as a boring day. He invited an intern into the Oval Office, and that day destroyed his reputation forever. What that shows us and proves is that every day, even when you label it an insignificant day, it has tremendous power to change our lives forever. My dad, when I was growing up, had a statement that he said so often. I cannot tell you how many times he told me this, getting ready to leave out the door for school or going out in the evening to hang out with my friends, and he would make this statement. He would say, you know, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but only one day to destroy it. Wow, that rang in my ears. Still today, I hear that, and I hear him saying it. He said it over and over and over. It takes a lifetime, Galen, to build a good reputation, but it only takes one day to destroy it. And let me tell you, when I was at school, when I was hanging out with my buddies on weekends, when they were doing things going in the wrong directions, things that I knew that were not right, things that could lead in a really wrong direction, I would always think about what he said. It was ringing in my ears. Only one day, and it can ruin your reputation. By building the right kind of days, you're going to build the right kind of tomorrow. And the reason why that we live in a world where so many people are miserable, why so many people are miserable in their marriages, miserable at home, miserable at their jobs, miserable in their relationships, is because what they are doing is they are living in the past of regret, or they're trying to live in the future and hoping and wishing that something was better, and they take all of that energy and they're going in opposite directions, when the Bible says that if we would take all of that energy and pour it into the right now, we could build a life right now that changes tomorrow for the rest of our lives. The second thing that I want to bring to you, the second point, is change the quality of each day. Paul said in Ephesians 5 and verse 16, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Make the most of every opportunity. In your life today and every day, there are great opportunities. If people are living around you, there are tremendous opportunities that you have to invest your life into someone else's life and to make their life better because of what lives inside of you. And he says, take every opportunity to do everything that you can, but be careful because the days are evil. What he was saying and what Jesus said early on was that Satan is a thief and he has come to rob the greatest gift that God has given to you, and that is the moment, right now, this day. He wants to destroy your day. He wants your day to be corrupt. He wants your day to be filled with sin. He wants your day to be filled with opposition. He wants this day to be filled with broken relationships, and he wants to steal that from you. And if you think about it, when a day is finished, another day is subtracted, and that day will never be added back to your life. And we have absolutely allowed Satan to steal the greatest gift that God has given to us. What I love about the Bible is that it's so practical and it's so down to earth, and it's right where we live. It's not something that was written thousands of years ago or 2,000 years ago. It's something right where we live that we can add to our lives. For instance, there's a story that I love because we can relate ourselves to this story so well. It's the story of Mary and Martha, and they have their own house, and they invite Jesus and some of the disciples over for dinner. And so they have dinner guests coming, and Martha, as you read this story, you realize that she's a perfectionist, and she's running through the house, and she's straightening and cleaning and dusting, and she's doing everything she can, because when Jesus walks in her house, she wants everything perfect. She's in the kitchen, and she is slaving over the hot stove and over the fire, and she wants everything to be just right. And when she fixes this meal and she presents it to him, she wants it to be the best he's ever eaten. She doesn't want anything burnt, anything go wrong, and so she's stressing over all of this. While she's in the kitchen getting everything ready, she hears her sister in the other room opening up the door. The guests have arrived, and Martha's in the kitchen, and she's frantic. She's behind the curve. Things aren't going well. And she's wondering, where is Mary? What is Mary doing? Why can't she get in here and help me get this thing finished up? And so she's finally had it, and she walks out of the kitchen. She goes into the living room, and her sister Mary is sitting on the floor. And she's laughing, and she's telling stories, and she's listening to the stories of Jesus, and they're just having a great old time. And Martha, when she sees this, she loses it. And immediately she snaps at Mary, and she snaps at Jesus. And what she says to him, she says, "Jesus, make her get up and help me in the kitchen." And Jesus is taken back by that statement, and he responds to her by, "Martha, Martha." And he calls her by name twice, "Martha." And what he's doing is he's settling her down. And then he puts everything into perspective. And he says, "Martha, what Mary is doing will last for eternity. For what Mary is doing is she's working on a relationship. What you're doing will only last for a few moments because it revolves around food." And he put everything into perspective that day, and here's the problem. She was so preoccupied by all of the stress of that day that she did not even recognize that God was sitting in her living room. What happened that day with God actually in her home? She lost her joy, and she became frustrated. And she spoke sharply to the people that she loved the most on the planet. It's the same mistake that we make so often, that we get so preoccupied by our problems and stress and our anxiety that we become so miserable, and it affects everyone around us. It affects all of our relationships because of the pressure of the day, and it makes us react wrongly to the people we love the most on the planet. And when we lose our focus on the importance of today is when we let our attitudes go wrong, and when we are harsh with our kids, and when we are rude to our spouse, and when we are vicious with our words, and when we are irritable and sarcastic and frustrated with one another. And why do we do that? Why do we talk to one another? Why like that? Why are we irritable with one another? And it's easy. The reason why is because it's natural for us to do so. It's our sinful nature. It's how we were created. Sarcasm, frustration, irritable. It's how we were formed and made. And when it flows out of us, it's the easiest thing to come out. You see, what we're not doing is understanding that we have Christ living inside of us, and that we make a determination every single day that I'm not living by the flesh, that I'm not going to live by the carnal, but I'm going to allow the Spirit of the living God on this day that God has given to me, to allow it to rise up inside of me, and that I will operate through the fruit of the Spirit and not by the works of the flesh. And it is a working order. It is a hard thing to work out. It's a pressing thing, and it's not natural. But those who choose, born-again believers who choose to speak harshly to one another, rude to one another, irritable in spirit, it's either one or two things. Either they are so self-absorbed that they have focused only on themselves and they don't care how they treat anyone else. Or the second thing is that they have just become so spiritually lazy that they don't want to put forth the effort or the prayer or the determination to allow the Spirit of God to rise up in them every single day. You see, it's a daily decision that we have to make. It's a decision we make every day of saying, God, today, on this day that you have created and that you have given to me, I choose early in the morning to live this at the highest level that I possibly can, and that every person I come in contact with, I will bless them and build them up instead of tearing them down and destroying their lives. That's what I choose to live by today. And to trust God with our whole life, it's to say, God, I trust you with my life, and it's to say, God, I will treat people with respect, and I want you to take my life to a higher level and where I live at a higher quality than I've ever lived in my life. There's another story found in John chapter 9, and a blind man is brought to Jesus, and one of the disciples lean over to Jesus, and he says, was this man born blind because of his own sin or because of his parents' sin? And Jesus paused for a moment and then responded, and he said, neither. But this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. And then in verse 4 it says, as long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. What he's speaking of here is that time is running out quickly. Only so much time has been given to you. And he's speaking of the value of today. Today is the day of power. Today is the day of influence. Today is the day of healing. And you see, today we can honor God with our attitudes and with our works and with our actions. But it's only when we understand the power of right now. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 2, Paul tells us, he says, I tell you, now is the time of God's favor. Now. Now is the time of God's favor, and now is the time of salvation. And the only power that we possess is right now. What we seem to do is that we pour so much energy in the past and what we regret and what we wish that we had never done, and we worry and worry and worry about the past, or we'll worry and worry and worry about the future and what if that never happens, and we worry about finances, and we worry about our retirement, and we worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, and we burn so much incredible energy and creative power. We burn it up. But if we would gather all of that from this direction and from this direction, and we would pour it all in today, right this moment, we have tremendous power to change our lives. For when you pour all of your energy into right now, then all of a sudden it changes tomorrow. It automatically changes tomorrow because we poured everything in right now. You see, when it comes to our finances, and maybe you look at your financial situation and you have great concern over that, and you're hoping and wishing that 2012 would be different. Stop hoping and wishing. But what it is, it's a decision that today I'm going to do something about it. Today I'm going to make a decision. Today I'm going to talk to somebody. Today I'm going to put to action something that is going to fix my financial situation. Maybe you need to improve your health and you're just hoping that this next year will be better. I just hope I can lose weight. I just hope I can be healthier. I just hope that I could get more fit in life. And it's not about hope. It's about right now. It's not about tomorrow. It's right now, and saying today I'm going to change it, and it doesn't start tomorrow. It starts right now. I have no power in tomorrow, but I have power this very moment. If you want to restore the joy that you have lost in your life, then today you have to make the decision that today, right now, is when I start to laugh again. Today, right now, is when I start to enjoy life again. It is absolutely a decision that you make. Maybe you're spiritually dry, and 2011 has been a dry year for you, and yet today you decide that I'm going to do something about it, and you make the change today. In Matthew 6 and verse 34, Jesus made this statement, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself, and each day has enough trouble on its own. Well, that is such an easy, simple statement, and yet nobody lives by that. Jesus stated those words, and he was saying, don't worry about tomorrow, just put all of your focus in right now. And who lives that way? Because we worry and we worry and we worry, and again, we burn all of our energy into that which we can change not one bit. Paul said in Ephesians 4 and verse 26 that in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. In other words, he's saying that don't let the sun go down and don't let this day end. Don't climb into your bed when you are angry and mad and upset and resentful and unforgiving. Don't you dare get into that bed and let the sun go down on your wrath. What he's saying here is such an incredible principle. He was telling us that God has created every day. As the sun rises, it's a new beginning, a new dawning. It's a new start for us every single morning. And the sun rises and the warmth begins to hit us and the birds are singing. It's the brightness of a new dawning, a new day. And he is saying, don't you dare. Don't you dare drag in the trash of yesterday. The pain, the hurt, the angry words, the unforgiveness. Don't you dare drag that into a new day that I have created. Because yesterday is yesterday. Yesterday's failures are yesterday, and they're gone, and they are never to be repeated. Because when that sun rises, it's a new day. That you stand to your feet and you thank God, God, you've given me one more day, and I want it to be at the highest quality that I can live it. And even though I was mad at my wife yesterday, I've let it go, and I have a new beginning and a new start today. That's the miracle of the rising of the sun. You know, my dad was one of the greatest men that I have ever known in my life. And you know, I never remember him talking about the good old days, ever. As I reflect back on childhood and all of the stories and all of the conversations, I never remember him talking about the good old days. You know, my mom would get up, and she was a school teacher, and as she was getting ready, he would always go in and he fixed breakfast for everyone, for us three boys and Mom. And then he would get ready after we left for school. Every day he would be in there, and this is without fail. I mean, every single day that he would be singing, and he was a horrible singer, but he would just be singing, and you'd walk in and sit down at the table, and he was talking about, this is the day the Lord hath made. He must have said that 1,000,000 times. This is the day the Lord hath made. And he talked about, this is a great day. You're going to have the best day of your life. And that was what was poured into me every single day. This is going to be the best day at school, the best day of your life. And you know, my dad never lived in the past of regret. Never did that. My dad never lived in the future. I mean, he never really lived in that direction. But let me tell you, he lived in the now, he lived in the present, and he lived there investing in the people that were around him. It was all about the moment, all about the day. And let me tell you, he had one of the most joyful lives of anyone that I have ever known in my life. Many times I've thought, wow, if I could just live at that level. But the secret that I understand today is that every ounce of energy he had was put in the moment. It's the reason why that he had such an incredible relationship with all three boys. It was the reason why that he had such an incredible relationship with his wife. Was because it wasn't about worry and stress. It was about the moment. You see, you have an opportunity today to change your life and the people around you forever. Today's the new beginning. Today's the day of excitement. Today's a new year. It's a new start, a new fresh start. And when you walk out, if you'll take these two little points, they will change your life forever. You know, Copper Pointe Church is about new life. It's about those that are far away from God and how that people can come to a knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's what we talk about. That's who we are. It's our calling that God has given to us, to see those that are so far away from God to come into this place and to be radically changed forever. This thing is not about religion. This thing is about relationship. It was about 8 months ago, we made contact, Kay and I, with a couple here in the city, and she started working out. I bought her a membership at a gym and a physical trainer, and she met this trainer, and Kay just started pouring into her. And about 8 months ago, we showed you a video, and at that time, she had come to Christ. Her husband had not. And so I want to show you a small clip of what we showed you 8 months ago, and then I'm going to have this couple come out live on stage. And I want them to share with you what has happened in their lives in the last 8 months. Take a look at this video.
I have been working at New Mexico Sports and Wellness for a while, and I received a call from my manager that she had a client that was interested in to start training, and she automatically thought of me. And then she threw in the side note that it was a pastor's wife. I was just imagining all these scenarios of, you know, this woman that was just, I don't know, a Christian. For a long time, I thought I didn't have a judgmental idea of Christians. I thought, you know, they do their thing. And when I saw most Christians, most of them that I encountered weren't my favorite people. And the first time I laid eyes on Kay and we met and talked for an hour, it was truly amazing. When my professional relationship started with Kay at the gym, it started breaking down barriers with me because I was getting to know her as a person, that a pastor's wife is actually a human with the same human problems, the same things I was going through as a woman, as so many different levels that I could relate to her. We weren't talking about the Bible, we weren't talking about Christ, we weren't talking about things, we were just relating as two people, and it was shattering all the ideas I had about Christians or even a pastor's wife, if anything else. So that's how it all came into fruition. In those hours of time that we spent together during the week, it was able to build a connection in me to really see that she wasn't one-dimensional as a Christian. She invited me to a discovery day one time, and she said, just come, you're just gonna be blown away. You've never been to a church like this before. And so, I talked to my husband, I said, I really like Kay, let's just do this. And, I went, and it was great. Through the course of mine and Kay's relationship over the past couple years, it had its definite ups and downs. There were moments where I was feeling good in my life that probably was easier for me to go to church, and we really connected then, and you could tell she had so much hope for me. And then as I would hit patches in my life where I wanted to push away the church, that's when she would come at me. About 6 months ago, we definitely hit the rockiest part that we've ever hit. I was pushing away a lot of positive things, including Kay, and it got to the point where I was probably downright mean to her to try to push her out of my life. My husband, we don't have any children yet, but we definitely have it in our future. The thought of that, I think, brought up a lot of those feelings that I had towards my dad, unresolved issues, where I started seeing where I didn't see God again. And so that's when I really started pushing Kay away, and the idea of church, the idea of Jesus, the idea of God, all the ideas. And then when I finally shattered and let it go is when everything started to turn around.
Great seeing you guys. And, this really has been very amazing. When we met you guys, and when Kay first met you, and physical trainer and working out with you, these guys had not been in church and really had a very poor view of Christian people, and church was completely off the radar for you. I think it was very bizarre, the thought of going to church and being a part of a church, and so that was nowhere in your scope at all. So, and yet, just by meeting someone, talking through that, coming to church a couple of times, you ended up giving your life to Christ. And in this video, you had given your life to Christ. Chris had not yet done so. And so tell me, put us kind of up to speed in the last few months, what has taken place in your home.
A lot of amazing things have transpired since that video. At that point, I had started reading the Bible quite a bit, doing my life journal, and really feeling the Word of God work through my life. And I really wasn't pressuring Chris to follow along in my journey, but I was talking to him a lot and expressing what was happening and how God was really working and becoming so much more apparent in my life. And through that time, I decided I wanted to be baptized at the first baptism held here at the church, and I mentioned to Chris that I definitely wanted to be part of that. I didn't pressure him to do it. I didn't ask him to do it. And one day he came to me and asked me if I would mind if he would do it with me, and it was the best day of my life, where he had purposely come and on his own decided. And from that point on, Chris and I have really built a foundation through the Lord, and really come into Christ together. So it's been amazing.
It has been amazing. And I've watched this whole process, and you came to Christ, and then over a period of time, Chris made the decision, was baptized, and now Chris works with me on weekends as part of our security team and one of my personal assistants, and prays with me on Sunday mornings, and it really has been an amazing thing. And again, from just a few months ago, that was so far out of even the possibilities, and yet it happened. And so you both have come to Christ, your home life has changed, but tell me a little bit about the impact that Christ makes. People come to Christ, we talk about that, the people that receive Christ here at Copper Pointe, but what real impact has that had on your life?
There's been so many good. I guess I always thought becoming a Christian, your life would just change for the good all the way around, and just positives would happen, but it turns out life just keeps happening even after you become a Christian. But we've been more prepared for the ups and downs in our lives, for sure. We've been able to plant our foundation on God and replace a lot of the fear in our life with faith. And also in listening to your sermon, it's been able to, instead of looking at our lives in broken pieces, we've been able to look at our marriage, our life, and everything as a whole, And God really has put us back together, and you can see the glue marks on how God is holding us together through his faith. So even in the good and the bad times, we're able to see God and see his purpose and his ultimate plan for us.
You know, Tara, I know, a lot about your past and your life and some real difficult, times that you have had to go through in life. So you've had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of valley experiences. Now being a Christian for the last 8 months or so, going through still difficult times in your life, what's the difference?
It's just a feeling of love, a feeling of calmness, and just the faith has been, it's almost unexplainable to really feel what it feels like to feel God completely in our lives and to be so aware of how he can help us. And in those difficult times, you're just so much more prepared. It's not devastating. You know there's hope. You know that there's love, and the bond that God has created between me and my husband has just been insurmountable.
Yeah. And then you guys have been praying about something for quite a while, and that has now taken place.
Chris and I have been trying to start a family of our own for a couple years now, and we will be expecting our first child in July.
All right. That's very exciting.
And that was a really hard thing for us to go through. You know, when was it going to happen? And having faith in God's plan, it just, even though we had to wait, it's going to be amazing.
Guys, think about this for a moment. Just having a conversation at a gym with someone that's far away from God. They have a conversation. They start building on that conversation. They invite them to church. They both give their lives to Christ. They now have a child. They raise their child in church. Now a whole new generation is being raised, understanding who God is in their life. And it all is because someone was willing to open their mouth and just talk on a realistic basis of what Christ can do in your life. And that's the power and the miracle of who we are as born-again believers. It's the power of the now. It's the power of the day. And let me tell you, every person in this room, you have power and influence to change generations when you just simply are kind and loving to other people. And so it has been a lot of fun to watch this progression in your life. And the last question I want to ask you, how has Copper Pointe Church changed your life? Because again, thinking about church just a year ago just sounded, I'm sure, sickening to you. Like, I never want to be a part of that. And so now you are a part of a church. And how has that affected you guys' life?
It's been life-changing and life-saving. I think we both felt like Christians, churches, it was full of insiders, and we were the outsiders looking in and would never measure up to their standards or who they were. And Copper Pointe has really showed us that it's not a church of insiders or outsiders. It's really made it an accepting place to come and be who we are, fallible and human as we are, and still be accepted. So I appreciate everything Copper Pointe has given to us.
Great. Hey, give them a big hand this morning. Man, God bless you guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.